Okay, it is 5:30, so we will call this meeting to order. Ms. Swopes, will you please call the
Yes.
roll?
Yes. Mayor Pro Tem,
Here.
Mr. Robinson.
Good.
Ms. Parker.
Here.
Mr. Rackler,
Here.
Mr. Self,
Here.
Mr. Merrick,
Here.
Mr. Elkins,
Here.
Mr. Lopez,
Here.
and is Mayor Miller attending by Zoom?
He sends his regrets. He's in a judiciary meeting this afternoon,
Okay.
so he's not gonna be on Zoom.
All right, so he's the only one that's absent. We have a quorum.
Okay, if you will rise, Mr. Robinson will lead us in our invocation, and Ms. Parker will lead us in our pledges, please.
Father in heaven, we come to you again to receive your blessing of our community for the citizen of our community. For the purpose of our community, that you extend the blessing on our community in the sense that you have been blessing us. We appreciate you, well, whether that we've received, we appreciate the precipitation we received, and we appreciate your Lord, our son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The flag, State of New Mexico, is the symbol of perfect friendships among united cultures.
Okay, our next item is public comment. The public has the opportunity to provide comment on subjects regarding to city business. During the public comment period, speakers' comments will be limited to 3 minutes unless the mayor and or council requests for more information. The time limit is given in an effort to allow the public, but also to move the agenda forward in a prompt yet efficient manner. All speakers must sign in at the beginning of the meeting. Topics are limited to 6 speakers per topic. We have 2, Ms. Vordenbacher for the zone change. Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor Pro Tem, council members. Little disclaimer, I am not speaking as a planning and zoning representative. I am here as a very concerned citizen. I'm here to speak about the zoning of a residential area to a agricultural zone on the north side of town. This request is so that ENMU can build a teaching facility that consists of a barn with internal and external pens to house various types of livestock. This zone change screens with issues such as water usage, waste removal, noise control, carcass removal, and hideous odor, as well as flies. Everyone knows we have water issues. We are currently on stage 2 restrictions, meaning that all of us citizens have to conserve water, which includes the limiting of watering our own lawns to 30 minutes per week. And we are entertaining bringing livestock into the city where one average cow consumes up to 20 gallons of water per day. Let's multiply that by 15 head. Yep, that's 300 gallons a day of drinking water. This does not include the water usage for cleanup, and I don't see any bucket hauling for that being done. As for the waste removal, there was no specific answer as to how it would be disposed of. I foresee it going in city dumpsters or not dealt with at all. With one average cow producing 65 pounds of manure daily, let's take that same 15 head, that is 975 pounds per day, or 29,250 pounds per month. That is a lot of solid waste being put in dumpsters or being left on the ground. Before you place your vote, think about the citizens of Portales, who you represent, especially those who have investments in the homes that they have bought and have not been given. The citizens that have to come out of their front door and be faced with an eyesore that has reduced the value of their homes. The ones that enjoy a cup of coffee in their backyard but can't any longer because of the stench, pesky flies, and noise. Think about all the citizens that will be affected when our winds are blowing, not. The enjoyment of sitting down to the meal will be lost to all of us. Think about all those that will have their quality of life ruined. Let's stop the catering to ENMU and let's put our citizens first for once. Let's keep their health, wealth, and quality of life intact. I ask that you don't strap us down with an unrelenting burden. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Okay, next speaker, Mr. Patrick Lucetto, and he is with Excel Energy.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. I just want to talk a little bit about a mobile set that we're fixing to do at the substation we call Portales City, which is on the corner of Main and Commercial Drive. So we're gonna set a mobile there. The mobile's already in place, but they still have work to do to unwrap it, get it ready to energize. So I'll just go over a quick schedule of what we're gonna do and you can ask questions. So the crew's gonna start the mobile sub set today. They'll energize March 28th. And on March 31st, they will put the full load of Portales City onto the mobile substation. We're gonna do some upgrades to the substation. It'll take 4 weeks, should be completed by May 25th. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna place high side fuses, and then we're also gonna put new insulators on the substation. So with that grain dust, so whenever it sticks to the insulators and we get moisture, it's not gonna track. So this is to help upgrade the substations. That way, whenever the weather comes, the moisture comes, we're not tracking, we're not tripping that substation all the night. So this is to help prevent future outages. So any questions? I just wanted to give a quick rundown.
Who's substation assistant?
Portales City, we call it Portales City. It's in the of JD Haskell. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, right there. This, in 13 years ago.
I'm not sure what they did to it at that point. I wasn't here for that upgrade. So I know the breakers in there are good, transformer's good. They're just gonna be upgrading the high side fuses, and the high side fuse protects the transformer in that substation. And then the bushing just to keep them tracked. So
Actually, very hospital. Last one came through. They set up a temporary station in there. And it wasn't able to handle the load, and so they ended up having to increase the voltage. To get the load handled. And we have heating elements on that tank down there. And you increase the voltage on resistance elements and others. It's just hoping that that's not gonna be the situation.
we've looked into that. And we are gonna put some additional reclosers down the line. So that way, if something does happen to that mobile substation, it's not every customer on that substation is gonna be out. So we can minimize outages if that's. Well, we're hoping to not have any outages.
When you use the term mobile substation, the first word mobile kind of mean is it's movable.
It is movable. It has,
Where were you?
so the substation, it's sitting right on the north side of the substation. Of the existing substation, and you're correct, it is movable. If something happens, if we lose a transformer here in Portales, we have a fleet of mobiles in Amarillo, in Levitt, so depending on the size, we can have it hauled in. So say something happens to a transformer, and we know that we can't repair that transformer, we could have another mobile here within 24 hours. And hopefully have it operation in 36 hours.
So it's an emergency process.
Yep, it's an emergency process, but we also use it for upgrading some stations whenever we can't afford to move the load to different stations.
Yes.
How many customers are we talking about that's on that substation? Are we talking about the majority of the city?
1,200 customers.
And what he said, there's not gonna be an outage. There will be a brief outage when they transfer it out of the actual physical substation there. They're gonna swap it to a mobile substation and everybody will have power. There won't be a huge outage there. They're just doing maintenance.
Commented that it didn't handle the load last time, so now it's built.
They have the ones that will handle 1,200
Yeah,
customers.
this, I'm not sure what size mobile, size transformer we have there. But the transformer on that mobile substation is a 14 MVA, so it's more than capable of handling open customers, so.
One of the first idea on Adams ran down the street from there. So I'm wondering, my neighbors at the time, don't believe that probably would say.
No, and even in the process of transferring from the substation to the mobile substation, you should not even see any interruption in your service at all. So it should be pretty seamless.
I don't want to hear my neighbors.
No, we're hoping to avoid that, so, yeah.
Well, thank you for your public comment. We appreciate it.
We will have more upgrades coming later on this year. I think November, they're gonna start another substation, and then we're also gonna be doing some line upgrades in the area too. But once those projects get closer, like 16 until.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick.
Okay, next item are minutes of the previous meeting. They were in your packet for review. I guess I could bring this up now. So last meeting, we did have an item on there that showed an action item for the appointment of Mayor Miller's to Sean Belden to the RCCDC and also Mr. Rackler to Public Works. As I recall, we don't vote on appointments. Do you remember, TJ?
Historically, we've done it both ways. Typically, if the council disagrees with that appointment, they express that at that time and the discussion takes place. We've also had it to where they've taken a vote for that. So that, I'm not sure what the best direction for y'all to proceed with that would be.
I do have a message into Mr. Miller for recommendation, so I will get back to you guys by the end of the meeting. So the meeting minutes are in your packet. Does anybody have any other questions? If hearing none, what is the pleasure of the council? Next. We have a motion by Mr. Robinson and a second by Ms. Parker. All in favor, state aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Presentation items. Item 1 is Roosevelt Soil and Water Conservation District, presented by Don Privet. And Mr. Cohn. Okay. How are you?
Yeah, Don Privet has much more hair than
Well, thank you for being here.
Well, to begin with, thank y'all for allowing us to come, and I think the last time I came to the city council and kind of gave you an update as to what we were doing and what we were about. I think that was pre-COVID. So it's good to be back. It's good to come visit with y'all. So I'm going to start real quick. You know, a lot of you might not realize what is a soil and water conservation district. And to be there are 47 different districts throughout the state of New Mexico. The origination of soil and water districts started back in the 30s, in the early to mid 30s, back in the middle of the Dust Bowl. And that created people in Washington that say, hey, we need to get a hold on this soil erosion. And so that's what created soil and water districts. Well, not the districts, but soil and water service. And it was a federal deal then. As federals came to the places where they thought, well, we need local representation on this to basically lead us on how to control these things. So with that, that's how the districts came to be, that were first called, they weren't called soil and water conservation districts, they're just called soil conservation districts. Due to the Dust Bowl situation. As they came to be, I believe in the state of New Mexico, had some legislation to officially, I believe in 1938 to adopt soil and water conservation districts. Is say, you know, our goal is to work with the people on the ground. We are an elected board, publicly elected board, consisting of five elected positions, 2 appointed. And that is our our current board right now. The state went in I believe 78 and passed through, I can give you all the codes and all that good stuff. In 78 and it's called the District Act. Which what that did is that gave stormwater districts quite a bit of power, is what it did. And it made us a state entity at that point in time. So we are we are recognized by the state as state entities. So in that, it doesn't give us, I said power enable, maybe that's misspoken a little bit. But it does give us some place that we can have a foot on the ground, that as industries come into our district to do things, we gives us a foot at the table, a seat at the table, so to say. And with that, we have developed our own land use plan. I believe the county also has a land use plan. And I brought a copy of that with us, so we'll give to the city manager or give to one of you also that you do have a hard copy. I know that e-copies have been sent as they get updated. But with the land use plan, basically what that does is that doesn't give us the power to say yay or nay, you can't do this or do that inside our district, but it does give us a seat at the table to where we can address soil and water erosion situations that we see could be an issue with a certain project, so to say. So with all that being said, so what districts do not follow county lines, so to say. We are called the Roosevelt, so we're not called the Roosevelt County Stormwater District. So this district here basically engulfs most of Roosevelt County, but it cuts off the Panhandle that belongs to Curry, and the very southwest corner down there, which is Elida and that part of the world down there, belongs in what is called Boulder Stormwater District, which they go from there down to about the Pecos River, like in different counties. I believe there's only one county that it actually, or one district that actually follows county lines, and that's Lee. In Lee County, and they actually follow the county lines. Other than that, the rest of them, the 47 districts are. I don't know who made these lines up, but somebody did long before I was around, and then some of them don't make any rhyme or reason to me. But what I'm here really, our stormwater district, we have several projects that we have going on. One that I'm going to talk to you all about here in a little bit. We've got a little PowerPoint we'll go up there here in a second. Is our rainfall enhancement program. And that's been a long-going project around here. It's ongoing in the late 90s, early 2000s. We had a lapse in funding there for several years, but it's back and going strong again. So, and that's the main thing I want to talk to you about. Another project we have is our shade ball project. And I mean, I could stand up here for 30 minutes and talk to you about the shade balls and what they can do and what they are doing throughout the state and West Texas. So that's a very big project that we have going on. Another one, we deal with other entities that are into playa restoration, the playa lakes in our stormwater district, into restoring some of those playa lakes, get them into where they're functioning correctly. We have a cost share program that we cost share with producers in the county on smaller scale, that the NRCS, the federal side out there, maybe doesn't really fit some of their things, that they can come to us and we can have a little cost share there and help them with some smaller projects. So that's a little bit about what we are, kind of tells you a little bit of when we started and so forth. But I believe we have a PowerPoint.
Yes.
Okay. If you will stick that up there, please. And real quick, we're going to talk a little bit about the rainfall enhancement. And it's very drummed down and we're not going to get real intense with it here. But if you're going to the next slide, rainfall enhancement / cloud seeding / weather modification, we prefer to call it rainfall enhancement. Okay. And what we're trying to do is basically do that, is we're just trying to enhance some rainfall. Okay. We're going to start here. There are weather modifications. This is not something new, not something random or whatever. As you can see, it's done all over the world in different aspects and in different ways. And if you go to the next one, should show us New Mexico, or shows the United States, the different states in the United States that have weather programs going on in them. The dark blue are the summer programs and summer and or winter programs. The light blue is all winter programs where they're trying to get more snowfall. Okay. Same principle. The way it's applied is totally different from between the two, and I can talk about that if you really want to know. Go to the next one. Several components it takes to do this, to do a summer program as we've been doing. It takes an airplane, without a doubt. It takes a radar. It takes a meteorologist. And the technical end of it gets much more intense with the summer program than what it does with the winter program. With the summer program, basically, to put it in simple terms, and this is the best way I can describe it. I'm sure everyone in this room has seen a thunderstorm. You know, we can't just go out there and we're not going to make it rain out of the clear blue sky. That can't happen. All we're doing is enhancing what's already going to happen. That's all this program does. We don't create anything. We don't make anything. We just enhance what's already going to happen. It's a tool. Is it a cure for our water issues right now? No, it's not a cure. But is it a tool to help? Yes. So, but we've all seen these thunderstorms, big, beautiful thunderheads, and we'll see them off to the west in the summer. And boy, we're thinking, oh, we're fixing to get us good big rain here. Look at that cloud. It's coming. And it starts raining. And you can see it start raining. It's got a little bitty old black streak coming out of it. Huge cloud. And a little bitty streak coming out of it. Well, in essence, what's going on in that cloud is it's starving to death. Okay? Because this will get into some other slides and show you a little bit. Up in that cloud, most clouds have plenty and plenty of moisture in. What they don't have a lot of time is particles for that moisture to grab a hold of. Okay? Because the water can't just sit up there and then all of a sudden it just falls. It doesn't work that way. What it's got to have is a particle, and what we do is we supply more material into the cloud for the moisture to grab a hold of. Another moisture to grab a hold, another one, another molecule, till it gets heavy enough. And then gravity takes over and we have a raindrop fall to the ground. So when we see those clouds, if there's just a little streak coming out, big, huge cloud, it doesn't have enough material in it. It's starving to death. It doesn't have what it needs for all that moisture to grab hold of to be a good rain cloud. So all we're doing is trying to give it something more for it to grab hold of. So if we go on to the next slide, and this kind of shows us a little bit where we do it at. There's two different ways that these planes will run. The one in the bottom is what they call base seating, and they we'll show some flares on the wings of the plane here in just a minute. And those flares, they burn those flares, and what they're looking for whenever they're base seating is they find the updraft in those clouds, and they burn those flares and let Mother Nature take the material and take it up into the cloud for that material to get with the moisture. The other way that they do it is from the top. And they'll be flying, roughly 20 and 30,000 feet up there at the top end of clouds. And they burn flares there, which contain silver iodide. Now, then you hear that and you think, oh, a heavy metal. That's bad news. But actually, silver iodide is the closest material that most matches what is actually in the cloud already. Because there are crystals, kind of like almost microscopic, like a dirt particle in the cloud. And the silver iodide really, really imitates it to the closest degree. And all we're doing is putting material in the cloud to give the moisture something to grab a hold of. So, and you're wondering, okay, well, where does this guy know how to go? Is he just up there, just buzzing around in his plane, just whatever? And as we look back at as we looked at that beginning with it, one of the first slides that showed the 4 different things, there's a meteorologist involved in this deal. And nowadays we have this thing called GPS. And we know exactly where those clouds are at, or where those planes are at. We know exactly what the cloud's doing with the new radar systems we have nowadays. I mean, the meteorologists can be sitting in Los Angeles and be on the radio with that pilot in eastern New Mexico and tell him exactly when, where, and how to burn his flares, and at what particular time and place, due to the purity technology that we have today. And that's the cool thing about all this. And was there, back when we started this in the nineties, was there some guesswork in it? And I'm just gonna say, in comparison. What kind of cell phone did you have back in the late nineties? Maybe a big old flip phone thing or a bag phone or something like that? What kind of cell phone do you have today? We carry around little computers in our pockets, don't we? Or in our purses or what have you. So just the pure, if you think of that technology, where it's come from there to now, that's kind of where we are in this. Basically what has happened is they've taken all the guesswork out of it. It is pure D to the point and precise as to when and how they do it. So those are the two types of seeding that happens on a typical thunderstorm. We'll go on to the next one. Here's like some flares, some of the ones that they would use on base seeding, which those are basically that calcium chloride. Those of you know that's a salt, is what that is. So those are burned and the cloud picks them up. The next slide, I believe, shows the silver iodide flares. They're mounted on the wings of the plane. And the pilot can turn them on, burn one, meteorologist tell them, go over here to go to these coordinates. Okay, fly here, burn one flare. Go over here, burn it, they're in contact with each other constantly. The next slide. Is that video? Do it play? We were having a few issues with this the other day. I don't remember what it is. Maybe. If not, it's. Well, we had a little short video that actually showed a flare burning as a plane was seating in a.
No, it goes to a Google Drive I don't have access to.
Okay, well, good thought, not gonna happen, I guess. But I mean, it was, yeah, no, I'll leave it at that. It will, but anyway, it showed a flare actually burning as the plane was flying and so forth. Now then, let's talk about those rain droplets I talked about a minute ago. This is actually a microscopic view of rain particles in a cloud. Okay, and that is the 1/100th of an inch is how big a particle is in there. Pretty small, pretty little. Okay, my eyes aren't that good enough to see it, but my bare eye anymore. And as a cloud progresses, if you go to the next slide, it shows how they start gathering up. They start attaching to each other to become heavy enough to become a raindrop. Now then, you say, well, you got all this water up there, and here's where some of the science gets above my head, because whenever they taught me over here at Taos High School, at 32 degrees, water turned to ice, okay? But in actuality, whenever those clouds, up at the top end of those clouds, it's below freezing in those, but it's still a liquid. They call it supercooled liquid, is what all the meteorologists call it. I don't know how that works, but that's what they tell us. So I'm like, okay, I believe you. But actually, it's still liquid up there at that point in time. And as these raindrops go together, or as moisture molecules go together and around each other, then it, as I said, becomes heavy enough, that becomes a raindrop. Next one. Now then, as I said, we have a current project going on. And through lots of heartburn, some different things. It finally got started. We've had some little trial ones over the last 2-3 years, but we actually got some money together to where we got to start the 1st of July. Okay. And in every cloud seeding or rain enhancement project, you have to determine a target area. And this is the target area that is right now that Solar, the company that we contract with to do all this work, this is their target area that they were approved, and they got a license given to them to do rain enhancement over this area. As you can see, Roosevelt County is a small part of it. Okay, we took in almost the eastern third of the state. Their ISC, the Interstate Stream Commission, is the one that issues these licenses. It's a long, tedious process to get a license. He's been able to, since he received the license, to renew it without having to go through a lot of the hoops that we did before. So as a matter of fact, I believe this last week, he just got the license renewed again for 25. So he's set and ready to go. Now then, our program started, and I believe in your package, you've got some information that kind of shows about, because we started this program in 1st of July. Okay, and went through the end of September, 3 months worth. We have funding sitting there. We will start back up about the 15th of April and go to the end of June. We do have lobbyists in Santa Fe at the present time. There is a bill that got constructed. I believe will get presented, either got presented today or tomorrow, to continue funding. So hopefully the 1st of July, we just roll on. We have another foot. That's the bad thing about, we all know our fiscal year in New Mexico. And it splits us right in the middle, by trying to do this. And so unfortunately, that's a hurdle that we have to jump over. But we're willing to try it. So, but that's the target area that we're out after. And where we're trying to go, because sure, we could do it just for Roselle County. But we've learned through the years that the further west we can go is the typical movement of clouds and of systems is from west to east or southwest to northeast. That's the typical movement, the typical direction. So the further we can get over to the west and get started working on these clouds, the more they're going to do their job. Because in essence, what we're doing is, like I said, is we're helping what's already going to happen. And what you'll see happen, and there's a couple of video or a couple of radar images we'll show here in just a minute. What happens to a cloud when you seed it, cloud seeding it's got a bad rep from time to time. They say, oh, they created tornadoes, they created hail, they created this. No. In actuality, what happens whenever a cloud is seeded, it quits building up. And what it'll do is it'll flatten out and it'll start raining over a wider area for a longer period of time because it has more material in it to do that. So it starts doing what it was intended to do instead of building and getting more and more intense. So in actuality, we slow down severe weather and hail is what happens. There are programs out there that are hail suppressing programs. And they go about it a little different on their seeding aspect. So one thing you should know about is if there's any kind of warning, thunderstorm warning, flash flood warning, tornado warning, any warning, it's hands off. Planes cannot go close to that system, cannot go close to that cloud, can't be in the vicinity. So, I mean, if you're ever wondering, well, why, they just made that cloud worse. Well, no, in actuality, we probably kept it from getting worse if they're working on it before it gets to that stage. But if it gets to that stage, then it's hands off. Can't touch it, can't go there. You'll go on to the next one. All right, here's some radar images and some seeded versus non-seeded. The top three slides are seeded is a storm that was seeded and a bottom one is not. And you might say, okay, how do we know if we're comparing apples to apples? Okay. And basically what happens, guys, is these meteorologists are sitting here and they're looking at all these different, because we got these radars now, they'll slice them clouds in half and lay them upside down, and we can look at them in every angle and every direction we could think of. And so that's what they do. And we can actually measure a cloud is to the kilometers squared and the kilometers cubed, how big, how much mass that cloud has. Okay. So therefore we can compare apples to apples. We can take a seeded cloud, or we can take a cloud and seed it and leave one almost identical to it. As we see, they start out on the cube side, they're identical, aren't they? Now then, as seeding progresses, as time progresses, we see the non-seeded cloud just kind of stays the same and then just kind of starts withering away, doesn't it? Whereas the seeded one up on top actually starts to spread out, like I said it'd do, and starts to rank, gets a larger area over and starts to do what it's supposed to do and lasts for a longer period of time, as we see there. And you might see the little, I can't tell. Yeah, the little blue squiggly lines in there. Can you see those on the seeded ones up on the top? That's actually the flight plan. That's where the plane was flying. So with GPS, we know exactly where that plane is, when he's doing it, and what he's doing. If you go to the next one, I think is another comparison. Although things do happen a little bit different here. So we look at the top one, we look at our measurements and we're 1384 on the top one. Actually, the bottom one starts out non-seeded is a bigger cloud. And as time goes on the top one, we see where the plane starts flying, starts sitting in there. It grows ever so slightly. It starts to get bigger, cover more area. The non-seated one jumps out there. When you see these clouds do this, so kids jump out, man, get great big, huge, jump a whole bunch, and then just they're done. We've all seen clouds do that, and that's exactly what the non-seated cloud did. Got real big, real fast, dumped a whole bunch, and then was done. Whereas the top one spread out over a larger area and rained over a longer period of time. Next slide. So, does it work? I'll say yes. And here's a little bit, is it hard proof? No. But myself being in agriculture and being a farmer and being a rancher, I visit this map quite often, and I see it quite often. That's the U.S. Drought Monitor. And if you'll notice at the 1st of July, on the eastern side of the state, a lot of tan, a lot of yellow, a lot of red down south by Carlsbad and Artesia. Pretty much the whole eastern third of the state was in a drought, or was showing on the drought monitor. By the end of those 3 months, the drought monitor looks a little better. It's not perfect. I think we will constantly live in a drought in this part of the world. That's just a given. But that's kind of where that's one piece of proof we can show. In the next slide. Now then, one of our members on our board is a farmer out east of town. And we said, let's put some numbers to this. What's a drop of water? What's it really worth? Let's put some dollars to it. So he came up with this spreadsheet a few years ago and he updated it here the other night. And actually, these numbers are looking at that point in time, we were looking at trying to get a statewide program started. We backed off that somewhat because we've ran into some resistance in the Santa Fe, a little more liberal part of this state, that they aren't quite as big on ideas what we are. So that's fine. So we backed off to our side of the state. But if we look at some of these and we look at, and we take acres and we take average rainfall, and if, most of our contractors, all the contractors say, because we'll ask them a question, how much good are you going to do? Tell us. We need to know before we go to dumping hundreds of thousands of dollars at this thing. Are you going to do us any good? And with the technology nowadays, a contractor will stand here, and if he was here with me tonight, he would sit here and say, on an average year, I'm going to increase your rainfall by 12%. That's average. Now then, what is average? Well, that's, like I said, if we have clouds to seed, he's going to increase it by 12%. If it's a drought year, we just don't have the clouds, we don't have the opportunities, that percentage is going to be less. If we have years like last year in July, they were very, very active last July. Those planes were in the air a lot. Okay. So that percentage should go up. It just, we can't make it rain out of clear blue sky. That's not going to happen. And then no one should ever even think that. But you just kind of put some numbers together there, and what's, and Rick went in there and he took what his actual irrigation cost, his pumping cost is, and got it back to, his water value per inch of irrigated water is $8.20. That's what he figures it cost him per inch of water that he pumps on his irrigated farm. And so therefore he gave his irrigated value, gave his water value there. Total increase in rainfall due to seeding, we took the 12% over what the average was. Okay, it's going to take us from 14.43 is average for the state. We're going to add 1.73 inches, gets us 16.16. So therefore, increased rainfall due to seeding, over 6 million. And total cost of the statewide program to do a statewide program is $3 million. So if you take that dollar and you figure what's our cost per acre, comes back to just under 7 cents an acre. That's what it would cost to do it. So a rate of return for every dollar spent on the program, we should get $203 back. If you actually put value to that water. And you might think, well, that's pretty much. But it matters. get back to 100. You think that's still too walk up to that? We don't care. Every dollar spent, you're gonna get $50 back. That's still a pretty good rate of return. So that's kind of put some numbers to it. As to what about water, what we see as water being worth. You know, can we add to it? Yeah, we can. You know, I think in your package, there's another little handout in there that, and it talks a little bit more about what actually happened these last 3 months. And, do you have that?
Which one?
Well, I think it starts out, the first page has that target area, which we've already seen. Second page has the drought monitors.
Outcome, feasibility study, or is it the Word document?
The one there says impact of cloud seeding in New Mexico.
Right here.
Yes. No. If we pull that one up and we look at, and all these numbers, you know, they didn't just give us money and said, okay, go fly your plane and go have fun, okay? With that, we have to do a lot of studies. And we have a gentleman hired that was, he's retired in Texas now, but was the head of the cloud seeding programs in for the state of Texas for 25 years and is now retired. Well, we have him hired as our consultant. And so he was working in conjunction with state meteorologists from New Mexico State. And they were working with a climatologist from Texas Tech University to put reports together so that we can come and say, here's what happened. In this one form, it kind of talks a little bit about what happened over those 3 months. And, you know, pretty much what they're showing in this deal is that seeded storms on average live 44% longer than the neighboring unseeded storms. Storms lasted 50% longer, 55% longer. You know, the total rainwater mass released from a seeded storm on average more than doubled that produced an unseeded. So it goes back to what I was talking about a cloud getting bigger and covering a larger area. And down at the bottom of that page, I broke it down by counties as to how much above and beyond each county got that was in the target area. You can see there that Roosevelt County, we got an extra 50,000 acre feet of water, an extra 0.39 inches of rain, which was a 63% increase. Okay. Now then, here's a little disclaimer I want to tell you about. There were 39 days that the planes were in the air, in the target area. Out of the 90 days, out of the 3 months, 39 days of seedable opportunities. Their data is based off of only 15 of those days. They had some radar issues. Radar out of Midland, I think, was down for maintenance for a while. They didn't realize it at the time, so they weren't getting the data back on that. They had some software issues, so they had some other clouds they weren't able to look at. They're still in the process of trying to retrieve a bunch of that. So basically, you're looking at the data off of not even half of what was actually done. So it should be, you know, if you do that, you basically take everything here and double it, you know, if that's the reality of it. You know, the winner out of the deal is Curry County on as far as total inches and increase. Union County saw a lot of clouds. And there was a plane station right here in Callis and another one in Artesia. Well, he's in Artesia. I was fixing to say Roswell, but he's in Artesia. And that one down there kind of took care of the southern end of things. And the one out of Portales took care of everything kind of from here going north. And so the plane out of here was heading north quite a bit, especially early in the program. So, you know, in the next slide says the outcome of the 24 cloud seeding. That gets a little more intense as to each different types of clouds they had. Like I said, you're getting into some technical stuff here. Some of it's a little over my head, I'll be honest. But once again, down at the bottom, it gets into the counties and how much we increased. And then back there, I'll leave that the feasibility study to y'all. The very last page on there is for your information. I mean, this is one of the biggest questions we get asked, is we give a presentation. Silver iodide. How bad is it? This is a big bad stuff and it's gonna kill us all, and we've even had some deals that we've been on that we're spraying these chemicals over people and it's gonna turn them blue, and you know, we've heard some of these comments and we're like, no, no. And here gives you some different articles you can go to that they've been doing this for decades, and where they seeded clouds, where the silver iodide has been used. They have taken soil samples, they've taken water samples, they've done all the testing they could possibly do. And they do not find any higher levels of silver iodide in the target areas versus the non-target areas. So the amount that they're using is minute. And the amount that's actually getting to the ground, it's just not, you can't even find it. So that is the big question that whenever we do presentations, that is some of the issues that we've had with whenever on the licensing end of it, as far as in the middle part of this state. So in a nutshell, that's kind of where we're at. Like I said, we have funding in place. We will start back up about April 15th. And go, you know, at least go through the end of June. If we don't come across it, don't get any more funding. Hopefully the funding comes through. And you might ask for that target area. You probably want to know, well, how much money, what that cost? And to do the full year, 6 months, you know, which would be 3 last fall and 3 this year. For the actual physical part of that, we have to pay SOAR to do the seeding itself is just shy of 800,000. Do the whole eastern third of the state for 6 months. You might say that's a lot of money. That's a lot of country we're covering too. And if we can give you another inch of rain, you know, I sit here and I address y'all and let's think of this aspect. You know, we look back there and while we gave Roosevelt County, I can't say Portales, we gave Roosevelt County another 4/10 of rain. You know, more likely it was double that, probably close to 8/10 to maybe an inch. With the water issues that have happened here and that are going on, what's an extra inch of rain worth to the city of Portales? Just if someone watering their yard doesn't turn their sprinkler on 2 or 3 different times because they got an extra rain, what's that worth? It can get to adding up pretty quick, I think. And so as we look at this program, like I said, it's not a cure, it's not a fix. We don't claim it to be. Not even going to think about it anymore, but it is a tool to help. And that's the way that we look at it. And that's why our board looks at it. And that's why we've been so proactive with it and moving forward. So if you are in Santa Fe, you are doing any kind of lobbying stuff, we would appreciate it. You know, with if I had a bill number, I'd give it to you tonight. But like I said, they were still crafting it and trying to get it presented today. So I was on the phone 30 minutes before I walked in the door trying to get it in this day. I couldn't get it from them. Please, we ask for your support, for your help. To because like I said, every drop counts. Every drop counts. So y'all have any questions?
Yep.
Also, you know, I've been doing the soil water since I was away. I try to stay heavily involved with my soil water doing so that we know. And I asked them specifically to come and present again, and mostly because a lot of us didn't know about a lot of these things. But I also would like for us as a council to write a letter of support, just a letter of support saying we support cloud seeding. Here's the way I look at it, and Mike did a great job tonight, but it's very detailed, it's very deep. You know, we talk about it at every meeting. There's a lot to it. But it is helpful. And every inch of rain we can get, it's gonna help. And the way I look at it, everything we can do to help with our water situation is what we're looking at. And this is just one more avenue that's not gonna cost us a dime except to say we support you. That's not very expensive to say we support everything. So that was part of the reason I asked for them to come and thank you for coming.
Well, we appreciate, we thank you for the opportunity, and I know I probably went over 5 or 10 minutes. I kind of have a tendency to that happening, and I apologize for that. But, you know, I will leave you with this one story. And, back in the 90s, they started having meetings about this. And I was a little younger then. I was a young farmer in this community, and I went to some of those meetings, and I was like, is this right? Is this wrong? Does this work? Does it not? This and that. And they put one slide up there, and I really wished I could find that slide sometime somewhere. He put it up, and it was a picture of the Ogallala Aquifer. Okay, showed New Mexico, Texas, Kansas, going all the way up into Nebraska, where the aquifer goes to. And in the late 90s, and it was showing whether it was increasing or declining. And of course, back then it was all declining, still is. Except for about 3 places. And there was 2 places up in Nebraska next to the Platte River or Platte River, however you heard to pronounce it, that it was increased. The aquifer was rising. And then there was one little spot down there in Texas. That, I mean, just a little blip on the map that it showed that it was increasing, that it was rising, the aquifer was rising. And I mean, it was a room much bigger than this with a lot more people in it than this. And here's some young kid sitting in the deal, and I raised my hand and I said, go back to that slide. And they pulled it back up again. I said, that little spot down there in Texas, how come it's rising down there? How come the aquifer's rising down there? And they told me then, they said, that is Big Springs, Texas, and they've had a cloud seeding program going on for 20 years. And I said, sold. And ever since then, I've been very active and very pro about this. So, I mean, what's the old saying, picking worth 1,000 words, you know? And that's the way it was to me that day. And, you know, like I said, is it the cure? Is it the answer? No, but it is maybe something that we can help curb some of our issues. Every drop counts. So.
Council record, are you asking for a blanket letter from the council or individual?
Well, I didn't know what would be best for the organization, and unfortunately, I've not been around a lot lately, so I didn't get a chance to meet with them before they came tonight. But if Don, if you want to bring us something for our next meeting, maybe that would be appropriate for what your need is. And you'll maybe go to the next meeting. That'd be all right.
Or email to us, and we
Or
do that.
email.
That way it's, if your bill goes, then you'll have our letter of support prior to.
You know, all it says, oh, yeah, I don't see a problem, we'll get it through, running, you know, but yeah.
Yeah.
You know how things can happen in Santa Fe too, so.
Any other questions?
What's that comment? Looking at the pictures of the flares, you need more of those. If it doesn't much good with what flare you got, you need to put more flare.
More flares on there, well, they land and they reload, so. You know, just for your information, how did cloud seeding start? And this is real topical to me, you know, they talk about, they were actually doing it like back then in World War II. They tried to start it back then to combat some, you know, make it worse for the enemy, whatever. And literally, this is how they did. They had the big B-2 bombers, and they'd load them up with dry ice. And they'd fly over the top of a cloud, and there'd be guys back there scoops, shoveling dry ice out the door of the plane on top of clouds. Now, that's not very scientific. So you look at where we were and what we've come to now, and it's pretty amazing. So,
I'm gonna make a comment, okay?
yes, sir.
I've been involved with this for a long time too, because I've been in the council for years.
Yes, sir.
But I think if you pray for rain, you get more rain.
You do. You do. Absolutely.
And I believe in that too.
Yes, sir.
Let's do them both.
Yeah. I'm all about it.
Anybody else? No, we're not past. Go ahead.
So. She wants to come to the.
Oh, you do have to come to the podium and state your name.
Oh, yeah, you're recording, aren't you?
Okay. Initially, I came to check in on something and came on this meeting. So my question is,
Ma'am, could you state your name first, please?
Mary Scott, I'm sorry, yeah, from Portales. My question is, with the seeding, we don't really understand a lot of the scientifics behind it and the chemicals that are involved. So I did see a program, I think it was on PBS, and there was a concern with high aluminum, heavy metals that were coming from some of the seeding. I'm not saying all, I don't know, I don't understand. But I would beg to question and to ask, who does the testing of the soil and water to see what the effects are and how many years of this type of study goes into it and the effects of possible cancer, or, you know, heavy metals on the brain brings forth brain damage. So do we have anything to support that?
Mike, can you speak to that?
In your packet, and we have extra ones over there. There's other people here that like those, that packet that the counselor's got tonight on the back page of that addresses the silver iodine and the different studies that have been done. There's websites there, there's studies that have been done multiple times. Of course, you know, if you go Google, you know, Google's got to be correct, you know, but whatever. Legit scientific studies that have been done have not found any traces of those metals to ever get to us. You know, like I said, they're checking under target areas like our outlined area versus going beside it and testing water and soil over there, and they're not finding. Now, there's been more studies done on the winter projects, which those projects, they still use some of the same chemicals and so forth, but they don't use planes on the winter. They use ground-based generators that are situated on mountains. Usually it all happens in the mountains. We can't do winter programs here out on the plains, but it's they do it on the mountain because they know kind of weather systems, the direction that you typically come from, and so therefore they place ground-based generators so that the cloud comes through the ground base. Once it gets there, then it shoots the flare of the same materials up into the clouds. So there's been lots of studies done on the snow and the snowpack as far as silver iodine and how much volume is in there. I can't seem to find it. So, you know, yeah, you mentioned silver iodine and a lot of people freak out. I'll be honest. There's a heavy metal, you know, and heavy metals in large quantities and heavy doses can cause exactly those things you talked about. I agree. But the amount that they're using to do these, to see clouds with is so minute. These particles are so microscopic. And so therefore they don't have to put large volume of them into clouds. Because as I talked about, one little rubber molecule there was 1/100th of an inch. So you're talking about molecules smaller than that, that moisture is looking to grab a hold of it to do its thing, to multiply. So this is a very common question. And I thank you for it because I mean, it is a viable one and it's one that we've looked at. And every study that we find, legit study, we put that away. There's going to be some out there that's going to say, yeah, we're killing the world. Okay. But I think if you go back and you look at the science behind it and who did it and the scientific basis behind it, you're not going to find that's legit. It has been our observation. And so that's kind of where we're, you know, if there's a slightest chance that we could be harming people, or harming our aquifer, or harming, you know, agriculture at all, or any shape, form, or fashion, we wouldn't be standing here today. I promise you that. If there was any way that we could be physically harming anybody or anything, we're not that type of group that at all cost, it doesn't matter what the cost is, we want more rain. No, that's not what we're about. It's got to be safe and it's got to be scientific, and that's what we are about.
Yeah,
Someone else question?
Yes, sir.
I think you mentioned it, but I probably missed it. You said you have to go further west. When you say further west, where Arizona?
No.
What do you mean?
The target area basically is going over to, we can't, whenever the planes fly and do summer programs, they can't go in the mountains. Okay, so basically what they're trying to do is catch some clouds and some storms coming off the mountains. So if we could get over to the edge of the mountains and start working on them there and let them clouds, because that last thing we've had programs here that were just Roosevelt and Lee County. Okay, well, in the target areas, they have a buffer that the plane is, I believe, allowed to go 15 miles outside the target area to start their deal. Well, if when we were in Roosevelt and Lake County, if we just went 15 miles on the other side of Roosevelt County line, by the time we were getting after a cloud and making it work real good and everything, well, who was getting the benefit more of it? You know, so that's why we were saying we needed to go start on them further west so that we could maybe get all the good out of that storm. And, you know, Texas still gets some.
Well,
We
it
don't wanna
starts
give
on the
them some.
west side of that, the west side of that red
Red.
box.
Yeah.
They start on the west side of that and they work everywhere.
I'm just curious as to where it's on the west, like the red line.
Yeah.
is the west of the red
You
line.
know, but like I said, we can't, you know, we've had other districts that are further into the mountains and, you know, you get over Capitan over there, like, oh yeah, come on, we want, but you're just getting into the mountains and the contractor said, well, we really don't do any good in the
I
mountains.
just hope the class C no starting out in Florida.
Yeah. You know, I will tell you this, I mean, we're as transparent as we can be. One other thing that I will tell you, when this is going on, we will try to put out, there's an app out there called FlightAware. And you can get on FlightAware, and if you have the tail number of any plane, you can follow, you can track that plane. And so if you have the tail numbers of the two planes that are doing the seeding here, and you think, I wonder if they're up, there's some clouds, I wonder if they're up seeding today, you can pull it up and you can find out if there's where their plane is. If it's sitting on the ground in Portales, or if it's up at Union County, or where it is. There's a little bit of delay on it, about a 10-minute delay. It's not exactly to the minute, but you can follow those planes, and you, I mean, any one of us have that app on our phone if you have the tail numbers. I don't know what there'll be. I don't know which planes they'll bring back over here in April. But I think we usually put those numbers out there, because like I said, we don't want any secrets here. We want it all to be out there, because I've heard lots of things through the years. Well, your planes are up there circling around that cloud and it just disappeared. And you go back and you look on the deal. Well, no, actually, the plane was sitting on the ground and the cloud was sat there. Wasn't even in the sky. So, you know, it's good to be able to track those guys and to know where they're at, know what they're doing. And I think that's a cool thing about some of the technology nowadays.
Thank you for your presentation.
Yes.
We good? Any other questions? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank y'all for having us.
Okay, next item is our consent agenda. The consent agenda is approved by a single motion. Any member of the council may request for an item to be transferred to the regular agenda from the consent agenda without a discussion or a vote. These items that we have listed are request of approval for awards for job order contracting for various on-call services between the city of Portales and the following. Our first one is K Barnett and Sons for general contractor services, plumbing services, HVAC services, concrete services, and roadway constructions and related services. This was RFP 2024-10-11. Item 2 is L&J Well Services for SCADA control services, electrical services, and well services. This was RFP 2024-09-10. Item 3 was Quantum Solutions LLC for SCADA control services, electrical services, and well services. This was RFP 2024-09-10. Item 4 is Mario Aguirre Construction for general contractor services, plumbing services, HVAC services, concrete services, roadway construction, and related services for RFP 2024-10-11. And item 5 is Desert West Enterprise LLC for general contract services, plumbing services, HVAC services, concrete services, and roadway construction and related services for RFP 2024-10-11. So, These are the consent agendas. I have one question. These are all on there because with with the same RFPs, just in case one can't get to us, then we can utilize the other. Is that correct?
Correct, and in the contract. You'll see in the contracts, it specifically says what each one applied for.
Perfect. Does anybody want to remove any of the following items? Hearing none, what is the pleasure of the council?
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Parker and a second by Mr. Elkins. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, now we'll move on to our action items, community services. Ms. Kelly McLennan. Item 1 is ratification of the grant from New Mexico Department of Transportation for Aviation Division of Airfield Maintenance and Consumable Goods. Ms. McLennan.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor Pro Tem and Council. So the first one, we go forward and one more. It's ratification for an annual grant that the airport gets. This is a airfield maintenance and consumable grant. It is a 90% paid by NMDOT, 10% paid by the city of Portales. It's mostly used to cover required inspection of our AWAS. And other maintenance for vehicles, buildings, runway grounds, anything we can fit in there. It's a total of $22,222 in total. The state pays us $20,000 back reimbursable, and then we pay $2,222 out of that grant. I do recommend approval of this because we do think required inspections, so we would have to pay that money anyways. At least with this, we do get about 90% of that money back. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Do we have any questions? Have a motion by Mr. Merrick and a second by Ms. Reckler. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
I'm out. Ms. Parker.
Ms. Parker.
Oh, Ms. Parker, sorry. The motion by Ms. Parker and the second. Wait, is that backwards? Mr. Merrick made the motion, Ms. Parker seconded.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, item 2, approval of recommendation for resolution PC 2024-25-35. Zone change at no site address submitted by Eastern New Mexico University. The zone change from a mixed C-2 -R-2 zone to a rural agricultural zone for the purpose of building a new ag facility for teaching purposes. This was originally postponed from the January 21st meeting, and it is being brought forward today.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and Council. So this is a zone change that went to planning and zoning. This section of area does not have any addresses, so we made sure we kind of highlight it here so you can kind of see where it is. Down here, you have the Greyhound Arena and your training stuff. So it's that area right up there. We'll go to the next one. This area is a mix of C2, which is general commercial, and R2, which is multifamily. So they're looking to have it all zone changed to a rural agricultural. We did send out, we published this in Eastern New Mexico for the public hearing on the 22nd. 25 certified letters were sent to property owners. We received 2 for, 1 against. We sent 6 certified letters to public utility, 0 for, 0 against. The protesting letter did not turn in a statement as to why they were against the application. This was approved by P&Z with the recommendation of adding a privacy fence around the facility. It was voted 3 for this and 1 against on our 6th meeting. And it was postponed to this meeting, so a member at Enon, you could come and speak to you today. The 2 things, I'll pass it off back, is when they speak today, they are actually seeking to appeal the decision involving the privacy fence for reasons that they'll explain. And if you do decide to move forward with the recommendation, including the privacy fence, we request that you give us the parameters of the fence. This will be a new requirement. We don't have a privacy fence parameter in place, so we need to know what to be looking for. If you have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer them. If not, I will pass it off to the EMA representative. Sure.
Is this the old form? These things used to have an agricultural processor was already designated as a farm. And they formed it. Is this the land that we're talking about?
Ooh, I'll have to look over. Yes, I'm getting some nods.
It is the farm.
Yes, they're indicating
Why do you
correct.
have to change?
Because it is not zoned to have livestock. To have livestock in town, it needs to be rural agricultural. So if they want to put cows, livestock that they'll cover, they would need to have the zone change.
I thought they had animals out there at the time in the 80s.
Maybe before our zoning maps, maybe before when we banned livestock, I believe in 2000s. So that was.
Research that.
I'm not sure about that. I do know the law, the ordinance not allowing livestock was in 2009.
So the reason we're not changing it, it's already been designated as an agricultural process.
It might have been, but it is no longer zoned that way, so they'll need to get the zone change to allow the current facility to be built and to have livestock.
Okay.
Mr. Lorenz?
It was not the animal though. It was always out there to raise crops or something. But not for profit.
Not the livestock, okay.
Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, I certainly appreciate this opportunity to address you. In terms of the privacy fence, we do look at that, creating an uncertain and undue burden on the institution. First of all, we don't know whether that means a privacy fence around the building, which would really restrict airflow to animals, et cetera, and is not conducive to maintaining the animals in a thermoneutral state. If we're talking about a privacy fence around the entire section, that is a tremendous additional cost. And I understand, as it indicated, what kind of privacy fence are we talking? I understand that this may appear to enhance the aesthetics. I'm uncertain as to whether that would really accomplish that. Over time, the original cost of installing it, and then to try to attempt to maintain that fence would truly be very costly for the institution. And I'm sure you've all seen privacy fences that aren't maintained, and I'm not sure if that's really the aesthetic we want. And so we'd really like the council to approve that without the recommendation that was included from the zoning. And with that, I'd stand for any questions.
Do we have any questions?
Yes, one question. So are you receiving funding for this?
Council member Parker, yes, we are on the docket for $2 million to the GEO bond. Thanks to the citizens of New Mexico. And that of course will be approved in this legislative cycle.
So is there restrictions? I mean, like when you applied for that funding, was there restrictions from the beginning? I mean, it's something that can you add later, like the privacy fence, or is that something that? I'm just thinking if you put a privacy fence and there's cattle in there and waste, it's gonna be, I think, worse. And correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. Well, yes, I would agree with you. I would also like to address the concern about odor, et cetera. Yeah, just so you know, my degrees are in animal science. I've spent my life in ag. And when you talk about odor, smells, problems with the waste disposal, et cetera, it's really a function of livestock density and duration. When you look at dairies, feedlots, even commercial swine and poultry operations, you have an extremely high livestock density and a duration of 24/7, 365. And that's what really drives the issues with waste disposal, and odor and smell. That's not the intent of this facility. This facility will bring in livestock for specific teaching or projects. The animals will be there short term. And then as soon as that project is completed, they will be removed. And so again, the fence part of this is from our perspective, again, it's just where do you put the fence, what that fence need to be? And if you're restricting airflow to the facility, it doesn't really help us to make sure that animals are experiencing a environmentally sound condition. I don't know if that answered your question. If not, please feel free to follow up.
I'll follow up to that. So I
Yeah.
have had residents call and say, you know, how many head are going to be there for what period of time? Are we going to be at the baseball field, the softball fields? You know, trying to support Eastern sports and having to smell something that smells like a dairy. And you know, what is the process going to be for eliminating all of the waste?
Okay. Well, in terms of the waste disposal, et cetera, we're gonna work with the state and work within state regulations to ensure that we are storing and disposing of waste appropriately. Again, back to the amount that we're gonna generate. First of all, the question about the water, we have our own wells, et cetera. That's not gonna be a burden on the city. We have our own disposal, trash disposal, et cetera. And so you're not going to smell that at Greyhound Arena, et cetera. We're not gonna have enough animals to generate that kind of smell. Does that answer your question or?
I'm still a little concerned or confused, I guess, more than anything else. If we're gonna have livestock on this plot we just saw right there. It seems like a fence would have to be a part of the deal. I don't want livestock just running around over there. And I guess I'm a little confused about what we're doing with the livestock. We're not gonna have a fence around that whole area.
Councilman Rapper, I certainly appreciate that, and I probably should have been more clear. We do anticipating putting up a fence. And you know, I always believe good fences make good neighbors. Yes, we don't want our animals out of there. We also want to make sure that there's not people just having free access to where those animals are at. The question is that, you know, in terms of what kind of fence we're going to put up. So there will be a fence. We just don't see the need for a huge privacy fence.
And what type of fence are you talking about?
Well, we have talked in several options. Of course, we could put up a chain link fence. Or what I would prefer is probably more of a woven wire type feature. That probably more of a game type fence. So again, it doesn't give that view of you know, I was, you know, the chain link fence, I kind of look at it, you almost get that industrial feel. And so we want it to look nice. We just go a big, huge privacy fence just doesn't seem to fit. And it is, you know, very cost prohibitive for us.
Sorry, yes.
How many animals are you going to have actually?
Well, it's going to depend on the project. So for example, we have a course where we teach artificial insemination to students. And in that case, we're generally bringing in about 15 dairy cows. They're there for a 2-week period. They're actually contained within the facility and then they're gone. And so I don't anticipate any time where we're going to have, you know, multiple projects running with multiple animals. There will be maybe more than 1 or 2, but we're not going to have a huge animal density.
Okay, it's not going to fall that like this.
Is it only going to be cattle or is it going to be other livestock as well?
We would look at cattle, probably smaller livestock like goats, sheep, things like that. And again, they would be there just for the project that's being conducted at that time. For example, another laboratory we run for our students is how to process calves. You know, learning how to provide vaccinations, et cetera. Same thing, we bring in a set of calves, probably 20, 25 calves. They would be there probably less than a week as we adapt them, process them, and then they're gone.
Eastland has a lot of acreage. If there was any other place considered.
John, I bet the only other place I could think of is trying to go way out at Blackwater Draw. Yeah. And of course, there we wouldn't have available water. We would be in terms of the infrastructure for the buildings, et cetera. It would take a lot more to do that out there than where we're at here locally. That is actually not that far from the rodeo arena, and this is a bigger acreage that allows us to.
So the rodeo arena was
yeah.
Going out.
Mr. Lopez?
If anybody worried about the smell is there already. And I live about 3 or 4 blocks from there. The smell ain't going to hurt me because I smell it every day. So I don't have no problem with it.
Parker?
Currently, is this gonna be a new program or is there currently something in place?
We have an existing ag program. We have degrees in animal science and with pre-veterinary options, production options. And then we have agriculture programs more on the agronomy horticulture side. One of the issues with trying to provide a good, solid animal science program is it's hard to teach students, I was gonna say kids because I'm getting old. How to actually manage animals without them ever touching an animal. And so this has been a priority for us for a number of years in terms of enhancing the quality of that program.
And so to you, everything that Eastern has done in the past, you have done top notch, and we appreciate that in our community.
Yeah.
I mean, you have the money to do it and do it the correct way. You don't do it halfway and just kind of put it together and then, you know, let it go by the wayside. So we appreciate that part of it in our community. So.
Thank you.
To use a phrase that may seem appropriate or not, but it seems like we're kind of putting the cart before the horse when we went and got the funding. And now you're coming to us wanting us to zone. Now we feel like we don't pass it, you're gonna lose funding. You know what I mean? Where you're kind of putting us behind the 8 ball, it seems to me. Rather than coming to us first and get the zoning taken care of before you go ask for the money to build the project.
Councilman Rackler, to address your question, I need to go back to what Councilman Robinson brought up. That property was not zoned the way it was, or that we understood it until we looked at building this facility.
Okay.
So it wasn't that we tried to put you in a bind, it's that we had property that we felt we could use. And then we seen the zoning part of this that we need to look at.
So does Eastern have any records of it being zoned differently? Or no?
I'm not aware of any records, nor notification to Eastern that was zoned differently.
I think we have 2 different issues going over. It was a crop, it was an agriculture, part of the agriculture program. So that's how, I'm not defending Eastern movement, but I'm just saying that in the 80s, it was a agriculture project. We stopped farming. I don't know the year, but we stopped farming out there. So it had its own agriculture.
Right.
And so again, we're not trying to create issues for the council, certainly not trying to force you in one direction. It's again, what we thought and what we're trying to resolve.
You already have a draft of how the facilities will lay in correlation to that. I mean, is your building gonna be on the south end? Is it gonna be on the north end? Is it in the middle?
We're in the process of hiring an architect to begin that process. We would really see that the buildings being further away from any of the residential areas. But we're in the process of hiring an architect that will help us with all that.
Well, it's gonna be closer to the president's house, but I don't know if he's gonna have a problem.
The president has assured me he will have no problem.
Is it safe to say that also a privacy fence of some sort, there's concern that somebody could graffiti the fence and you're having to constantly mitigate that or on top of other issues, but is it?
Councilman Self, when I talked about the upkeep, the maintenance, etc., I didn't say it specifically, but yes, oftentimes large privacy fences like that are seen as canvases. And I'm sure we would have artists.
Agreed.
And I'm just, if I may, I don't think that a privacy fence 6 feet tall, covering 20 acres of land. It's really even acceptable. Nobody could afford to do that, so I would be one that, if we're to go through and pass this, I would recommend not adding a privacy fence. I do know if they are gonna house cattle, they put up 5-strand barbed wire, they're gonna keep the cows in. I'm not concerned about that, but I, for one, I think Eastern is vital to our community. The more options that we have for students, the better, to be able to keep them in our community after they graduate, instead of them going off to Stephen F. Austin or Tarleton for these types of programs. It'd be nice to keep them here locally.
Or WT.
Yeah, with WT. Mhm.
Street. You know, I guess I know how I'm gonna go in this, but I have to make a disclaimer in the sense. I also have a degree in animal science, and I do realize that students have to have hands-on experience in artificial insemination. And they need to touch and be able to, it's a laboratory process, it's just like a chemistry lab being taken to that. And if my school wouldn't have had a place for me to touch it, then I wouldn't have got my degree. I couldn't even copy 700 courses. So I understand where you're going, so obviously I just exposed myself, I'm in favor of this because I know it's not gonna be nothing but a laboratory.
Mr. Lawrence, I have another question. You talked about processing of the meat.
I'm sorry. Processing of animals.
Of
not-
animals, not meat. So you're not gonna have like a packing or
No.
go out to.
Yes,
bid
to
for
be
that.
very, very clear, no. Not a slaughterhouse, no processing. In the animal science world, we refer to when you vaccinate, et cetera, we're processing animals.
Okay,
But no, that's not processing in terms of slaughter,
Slaughtering,
meat, et
okay.
cetera.
perfect.
Just for Tim, I ask you a question. This was brought to us as a recommendation with the privacy fence. So if we don't want the privacy fence, what's the process from here, I guess, as far as?
You could, yeah. you
Just,
could- Do we have anybody else that would like to speak on this from planning and zoning?
I have one question.
Okay.
Was it presented the same way short term at planning and zoning?
It was, but you have to understand when he talks, so if the program grows, you're gonna see a higher capacity of animals on it. And us as representatives of our citizens, we can't be going off of what we think we have to do what's right for our citizens. And to me, you all represent us as citizens. And if there is issues, I'm sorry that our town stinks, Mr. Lopez. But are we willing to bring in more stench? Or do we want to make this a community, clean up our community? And now I'm getting into this as a citizen. Because if they're already saying that there's not, that this is an issue and they're saying about the upkeep and stuff. If they would put it in place, what else are they not gonna keep up? You have to ask yourself that, if the project hasn't even hit the ground. And they're already reviewing items that they don't want to do. So what items will they not want to do whenever it is on the ground? And I ask that you please think of the citizens. Think of the people that are 40 to 60 feet away from them, not 2 blocks away.
I'm about 3 blocks. And I don't mind it. That's something that's going to help everybody there.
You also have somebody behind you that's a neighbor that's in favor of it, so I disagree with what you're saying. To a point, but I think we're representing you, but I definitely don't agree. Have you ever built anything that going through the state or regulations where you have to get permits and they have enough to deal with, let alone coming to get this approved? In my humble opinion.
Understand, but I am a ranger's daughter.
The microphone's not picking her up. Do you mind coming to the podium?
I'm a rancher's daughter. I know the stench that comes from things like this, and I know that money talks. So if a program is getting started and this is gonna be in our community, then it's gonna grow. And that more growth is gonna be having more animals on site. Now, you probably live on the south side of town. I live on the north side. And I know whenever those southwest winds hit, it's gonna be interrupting me at where I live. And I don't live that close to this facility. But I'm telling you, if I can smell a stench from over there by the baseball parks, I know that we're gonna smell this. And the thing is that the residents who are 40 to 60 feet away from this, what are you guys telling them? They're not worth a thought of this? Their houses that they put their hard money into to make a home doesn't mean anything? Oh yeah, we got the president just living there. That house comes with his job. He doesn't pay for it. So he really has no say. Because like I said last time I was here, he can cut and run anytime he wants. Those people across the street won't. Mr. Merritt, you tell me how much value will decrease in their homes if they have their facility, this facility built right across from their homes. Here in reality, you have to go and you have to think of all the citizens, not just a few.
Well, and with that said, there's that apartment complex there too, that whoever owns that, they're gonna have a hard time. Filling those.
There's a lot of
condos.
residents on the north side. I know I'm saying north because I know that we get a lot of stuff that doesn't get done over there on the north side. It seems like everything on the south side of the tracks get everything and we all get the crap. Literally, this is what we're gonna get.
I have a short comment. Could you bring back up, Chris, the letters that were sent out and how many people responded? Because my question is, you keep saying the citizens, ask the citizens, ask the citizens. There was a planning and zoning meeting. How many people actually showed up in protest? Then we had it at city council 2 weeks ago. How many people showed up in protest? And now we're having another meeting. I'm not sure. So what I'm saying is a lot of people, you're speaking for everybody. Nobody's contacted me at all. And so I'm saying 24 certified letters were sent to property owners. That was going to affect them because it's with 100 feet. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
100 feet. 2 for the proposal, 1 against. That means no with the others. What happened with the other ones?
We received return certificates, but we had, I think, 3 people call. We hear about it, but it just means
So
no.
nobody showed up. So you would think that if they were totally against it, those 24 people that are gonna live 100 feet from this facility would have shown up. For either the planning and zoning or for the city council meeting 2 weeks ago, or this planning and zoning, this city council meeting. 6 certified letters went to public utilities, 0 for proposal, 0 against. So I don't know how much we can go out and say, what do you think? What do you think? Unless we ask every individual person.
So let's look at the letters that were sent out. Were any of them gone over there and probably translated in these people's language? I mean, come on. There's a lot of people in the north side that are Spanish. So can you tell me that? Not only that, look at the description that was put on there. Like I told you guys 2 weeks ago, it's legal jargon. It first states there's no address, and then it gives a description that is latitude, longitude, 200 feet, whatever. You think that a regular citizen is gonna understand that?
Well, my question is, did they call? Did they question? Did they call and say, I don't understand this, can you explain it to me if something's coming to me? I mean, I don't know, I'm just asking.
We did have a couple call, Miss Laura will be the one who handles the calls, but her information is on there for any questions. Please contact her, so she can help explain the letter and the type of processes.
Do we place this, Chris, if you'll pull up where the map is at? Do we place this map on the letters like as an attachment so that they can see? I mean, I may not understand longitude, latitude, but I understand where the baseball field's at.
No, ma'am, it just goes, if it has an address, the address is provided and then the legal. Because sometimes the county and us will have different addresses. The one thing that stays the same is the legal. So it's just the address if it has one and then the legal. And then it says it's within 100 feet of the property you own and gives the address of the property you own.
Is the description there when it says zone change from C to R2, purpose of building an agricultural facility submitted by NMU, is that on there?
No, so the letter will say a property within 100 feet of you is requesting a zone change from this to a rural agricultural. And then it explains your legal, explains when the public hearing is, and asks us to contact if you have any questions.
Can I ask, it says rural agricultural or does it say RA? Because I would be with Ms. Bach on that. I'm on council and I don't know what C2R2 stands for. I mean, I understand it's commercial residential, but that's just because I've been to these meetings for a year. Most folks won't understand that. So I do understand her concern there. And especially if it said no address, that's going to be tough for anybody to even respond with. I do understand that it's within 100 feet, but I do feel like we did fail our citizens on letting them know this, if that's what it said. So I would be with her on that.
I don't have a letter in front of me. Usually it'll specify what the zones are, but I don't have the letter.
So why aren't they giving the same information to council?
They're given, it's just a page, it gives the basis of what we're doing, invites them to a public hearing. It's more of a notification of public hearing for this application. And then it says, please contact at this address, at this email, at this phone number with any additional questions.
But you're not answering this question. I can't get her. She's not coming up on the microphone.
So on this, the resolution, it probably shows this on the same letter to the citizens, like wood blocks 11 through 15 blocks.
Correct. It'll give the legal address, and they have to go on there, so no one can say that we gave the wrong address. It's the actual legal description of that property.
Yeah, but we should be providing this map to our citizens so that they have a visual, because I'm not gonna know, unless I go to the county, I'm not gonna know where that actual description is at. So that would be just a recommendation for,
It seems to me we have a time frame and the ability that to possibly postpone, and I know Eastern's going, my gosh, how many times we can postpone this, but I think it would be behoove us to have a town hall about it and see who shows up. I mean, it is a very confusing. I'll be honest. I read through it. It was confusing to me, and like I said, I've been sitting on the council for a year. I can imagine all people live there and have a clue what they're talking about.
I don't think there's nothing confusing about it. Just throw it to a vote and see who's gonna vote for it.
Well, my thing is, if I receive a letter from the city stating that I'm within 100 feet of whatever, I'm going to, as a citizen, take it upon myself to call, to say, okay, what is this? What exactly is happening here? How is this going to affect me? Something's gonna happen within 100 feet of where I live. So, I don't know, I'm just,
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, Eastern provided a copy of the letter that I can bring to you or read if you'd like.
sure,
Which would you want me to read it or read it to you?
you can read it.
Dear property owners, of this letter is to inform you that a property owner has submitted an application for a zone change from a C2, and then in parentheses says general commercial / R1 in parentheses, single family residential zone to a rural agricultural zone at no site address, legal summary being subdivision wood block, the big long legal definition or description of the address, which is within 100 feet of the property of a property that you own. And then it gives the information about the planning and zoning meeting and then how they can contact the city.
So they was given information, if they wanted to protest, that's the same letter that they sent me when J.D. Haskell
Yes.
was, and when you were the manager, Councilman.
You know, better than yourself.
It wouldn't be no stink or anything, but we have to live through that. We live in an agricultural community. And agriculture is, Eastern is a major employer, but also farmers are a major employer. And so we're training future farmers, ranchers. So I don't see, I mean, I protested it. Asking there, but we was told by EPA we had to approve it. So we're back to the same situation, the same letter I received and other people received. So I don't understand the folks singling out Eastern on this. We had, we single out other people and we don't have to. There's no reason to single them out on this.
I'm John Kenmore. My wife and I currently own a business that's right next door. We bought the old CYFD building. We run a business that serves individuals with developmental disabilities. And we are in favor of this being there, not only for the betterment of our community because of Eastern and they're growing students, but we don't have any issues with this over there. And I also raise cattle, and I don't think that you're going to get that smell.
You own that Pete building?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Can we entertain a motion on this? I would make the motion that we do approve the zone change, and I would leave out the requirement of a privacy fence. So just a motion to approve the zone change with no privacy fence.
Sorry.
Okay, I'm gonna do a roll call vote on this one, please. I know,
Here's the second.
so we have a motion by Mr. Elkins and a second by Mr. Lopez.
Lopez, okay, thank you. All right. Okay. All right, so Mayor Pro Tem,
No,
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Ms. Parker,
Yes.
Mr. Rackler. Mr. Self,
Yes.
Mr. Merrick. Mr. Merrick. You said no? Mr. Elkins
Yes.
and Mr. Lopez.
Yes.
That's 5-3, so the majority rules. And that means it's carried.
Ms. Schwartz.
Yes.
Next item is the Finance Department, Liana Rivera. This is a request for an approval of the intent to adopt an ordinance 772, adopting municipal gross receipt tax increase.
Hello, good evening, Council, Mayor Pro Tem. This request is your consideration and for your approval to publish the notice of intent for ordinance number 772, which is adopting a municipal gross receipts tax. It's of course included in your packet. Our current municipal rate is 1.4375%. And the increase of 0.6125 would put us at the max rate available, which is 2.05%. This GRT information was presented at the Public Finance Workshop and then on the 15th, and then also presented to the Finance Committee on the 29th. And to just recap key information, how does this impact potentially our consumers? So currently, the overall tax rate in Portales is 7.9375%. And if this ordinance is approved at the March 4th council meeting, then consumers can expect the rate to increase in July to 8.55%. And giving an example, since we talked about it in the previous workshops, is consumers can expect to pay almost 62 cents more per $100 spent of taxable gross receipts.
And I say taxable gross receipts because there's some items that are not taxable, for example, food, groceries. Okay. Council, the notice of intent is included in your packet. I will stand for any questions, perhaps any comments you may have heard already that would be key and vital to our public. And I will stand for any questions.
This goes to the public for hearing, right? Okay.
Mr. Merrick.
We've had two decreases in grocery receipts tax from the state. In the last 3 4 years. What was the rate at that time? Wasn't it
8.625, I believe it was.
So this is basically just recovering that we lost and a little addition.
Yes.
How does this relate to, we raised the GRT and we backed off of it and split it in half?
No, sir, that was the property.
That was a property.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Can you tell us the last time the GRT was raised?
In 2001, there was a GRT ordinance for infrastructure, which I believe was 1.25, but that was in 2001.
Any other questions?
This maxes us out on the amount that we could do. Is there a length of time until that could be increased, or you're there?
No, so we are at the max. We could always go decrease it eventually if you never know when the circumstances or economy changes, but this would be the max.
Can you explain what we're going to use this funds for?
So right now, the dedication is listed as general fund, as that is GRT is our key source for revenues in our general fund. This will help dire need and expenditures in our payroll, benefits, infrastructure. So definitely a key impact to our expenditures and operating.
What about streets?
Streets can help our infrastructure, correct?
Infrastructure.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I make a motion approval of the intent to adopt it at 772.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Parker and a second by Mr. Rackler. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Our next item is our city manager action item. Mr. Kathy is going to present. So we have one item of the request for approval of contract for the city attorney and the city attorney policy for review.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. As you eloquently stated, I'm here just to fill in. We wish our city manager the best and a quick recovery so that y'all don't have to endure me for very much longer. This is our city manager contract that has been drawn up by our general counsel provided by the Municipal League. And it's been in your packet, and I'll be glad to attempt to answer any questions that you may have.
I will just make a correction. This is the city attorney, not city manager.
I apologize. My apologies. You get what you pay for.
Any questions?
I do have a question.
Okay.
In the contract, it states this position is appointed by the mayor and must be approved by the city council. My question is, why is this an appointed position? If the attorney is going to be on staff, why is it an appointed position? Appointed positions are basically for a committee or something of that sort. This would seem to be more of a staff position. So
I will say, in speaking with Mayor Miller and the city attorney for the city of Farmington, I believe, according to chapter 3 statute, the city attorney is an appointed position through our form of government. And that's just through conversation with Mr. Miller and the attorney for Farmington.
Is that during our interview process?
No, at a later date, just on a phone call.
I was gonna say, I must have missed that. Well, okay.
Yeah, I asked the same thing, and that was the answer that I was given. If that's different than what you had,
It's statutory.
that's correct.
Based on.
Is the appointment based off of, and I-
Is it really?
Here's how to talk. Was the appointment based off of
He's
the,
just
interview process?
He's on Zoom.
I don't believe so.
We went through the interview process, and recommended hire. But my question is more related to the authority of the mayor to appoint the position instead of it just being, in my view, it would be like hiring a city manager.
Mhm.
So, and I've tried and poured through statutes and the codes, trying to figure where it directs the mayor to appoint. And I have not found it. There is one that talks about the governing body. The governing body may also provide for the office of. But I don't see anywhere in here where it says the mayor appoints.
Can I speak?
Yes.
So just like the city manager position, the attorney position is like an official position for the city. So our ordinances do not capture the correct way, and we will be rewriting them. But the city manager, city attorney, even the city clerk and treasurer are supposed to be appointed and appointed by the mayor and approved by city council, even if it goes through an interview process.
I don't think so. Yeah. Not the clerk and all of those positions. Those are all under the guise of the city manager.
Because we have.
Correct. In the mayor council form of government, that's the way. The mayor council manager form of government, that's the way it's supposed to be.
Council and city manager form of government.
Statutes do not actually spell out how all this is supposed to be processed for a mayor, council, manager form of government. They talk about mayor, council, and it talks about commission manager. And then, so you're trying to blend those two and they directly conflict.
According to a document from the Municipal League, under the mayor, council, municipality, Portales is one of 16 in New Mexico that have hired a manager. And under that provision, mayor, council, municipalities over 1,000 population may establish the office of a manager by ordinance. And we're one of 16 throughout the state that have done so. Now, I agree that it's not 100% clear on a lot of things, which honestly, in my opinion, as a fill-in, gives us justification for having a staff attorney so that we can have these questions answered.
And while we say a staff attorney, they work in coordination with the city manager, but the mayor and city council is the attorney's direct boss. Bosses.
Most of the council.
It does not say that in the contract.
Huh?
It does not say that in the contract.
And that's why. And we are and I'm not calling our mayor weak. I'm just saying that's our form of government. It's a weak mayor, council and manager government. And the weak mayor does not vote unless it's a tie vote, right? They do appoint to committees, but this is not a committee. So I still have questions over the way the contract is worded. And Mr. Burns, do you have any input in this? Do you?
Mr. Burns, do you know if, prior to this, I don't believe that you are supposed to answer any of that.
Exactly.
It's his position.
His position is gonna be.
I think we need to contact the legal.
Okay, my name is Sean Burns. I'm the applicant. So,
As long as you don't talk
I'm
about
here
anything on the
if you
contract.
want. I'll sit down if you want.
I think it's out of order for Mr. Burns to be. You as a citizen, you can speak, but not on this issue.
That's fine. I've attended these other meetings just as an audience member, so. All right, thank you. But I'd be delighted to meet with any of you collectively or separately about my qualifications at any time that the city manager and the mayor authorize. So I'm happy to do anything that helps that process.
Thank you, Mr. Burns.
I'm not questioning your ability to do the job. I'm not questioning any of that. I'm questioning the way that the contract is written. And the authority that is given the mayor that I think is out of his realm. So.
But do we need to contact the legal attorney then? Did this contract come from them?
Yes.
It did. After that.
It came from our league appointed attorney.
And they do. You have a question?
No, I'm sorry.
Comment?
Go ahead.
I lost my train of thought. That's okay. Sorry, I'm gonna read just a little bit through this just one more time because.
It's been a really, really long time since we've gone through this process as far as hiring an attorney for the city of Portales. So
It's always been because it's contract.
Yeah, it's always been a contract.
It's never been a staff.
right, and so I think, I don't know if this is coming from the league attorney. Then I think if we were to question them, they can maybe explain it. But it's maybe something that.
But in this, as I said, point of order, if we got a contract that it was. And do we have a motion to approve the contract or disagree? They're still discussing this. No, I said, we can discuss it, but what we're trying to do is kill the contract. We need to bring it up for a vote. And then if
Well,
you can table it. We can table, well,
Yeah.
either table it or bring it up.
But
for a vote.
we still need to know what, like, everybody's thoughts on it.
Yeah.
Because, if we just move to make a vote or move to make, a postponement or a table, then we still may have questions that.
My point again, and since I had the point of order, is that we send this to the municipal, the attorney sent us a contract. The city manager presented the contract, and the contract is the issue. And if there was a question of this contract, it should have been brought up to the city manager at that time and not at this meeting. That's my point. That's my point of order. I did bring it up earlier, but it was today. So I still stand on my point of order, madam.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Did you get a response back from your answer when you brought it up? Prior to this meeting?
The same answer that Mr. Moore gave us just a minute ago.
Okay.
And I was told him I still gonna question it because I still believe that I have not found anywhere in the statute that it gives the authority to the mayor to appoint this position. And when you read, as I was trying to decipher this, it talks about several different forms of government, but it does not talk about the form that Portales is, which is the mayor, council, manager position. When you dive into it, even this, when you go on the municipal league site, it talks about municipalities and forms of government in Mexico. It gives you two: the mayor, council, municipality, and the commission manager municipality. And both of those are conflicting because your commission manager, you appoint somebody out of your commission to be the mayor, and your mayor council municipality, you have, it consists of the mayor and not less than 4 or more than 10 councilors. Councilors or trustees elect one of their members to serve as mayor pro tem, perform the duties of mayor in his or her absence. Mayor pro tem can vote on any issue given when he or she is presiding, so you still have voting rights as mayor pro tem. Governing body controls all finances and property, passes ordinances and resolutions, approve hiring and firing, but may not make appointments or hire on its own. The council can set salaries, establishes and abolishes jobs, sets its own rules and procedures. Governing body cannot remove the mayor, the judge, or its members. So it's unclear in our form of government how this is supposed to be done.
And can I ask a kind of a question on Mr. Robinson's point of order? Is something like this for sensitive personnel matters, should this not have been discussed in executive session as well?
I think so.
That's the whole purpose of executive session, limited personnel matters and confidential information. No, but limited personnel matters, and it's about an employee, and that's.
So we should have discussed it in executive session and then brought the contract out.
Well, I disagree.
Well, I think that it's just like when we hire a city manager, you know, the whole council approves it, not only one person.
Well, and all of that was done in executive session. But that's why I'm saying that.
I would like to present a motion that we table this till we get clarification on the form, the contract on the questions at hand. And we bring it back in executives.
I second that motion.
And the wording of. Sorry, you already made the motion.
That's what the wording.
Yeah.
We have a motion by Mr. Rackler and a second by Mr. Robinson.
I'll wait on him since.
One
Yes.
other question that we probably need wording for is the reporting structure. Because it is not in this contract. The reporting structure. Who reports to.
With the city manager, mayor, and the council, those guys under.
Yeah.
It should say he reports to the city council and mayor with close coordination with the city manager.
I did not read that verbiage anywhere. It said that he was appointed by the mayor and approved by council, but nothing to who he actually reports to.
You can clarify that.
Yeah.
That Mr. Self.
So the motion by Mr. Rackler was to table till we can get some clarification from the league attorney. And Mr. Robinson seconded.
And I think he also added in executive session at the end of that motion.
Okay. Ms. Wilkes, will you take a roll call vote on this one, please?
Absolutely. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Ms. Parker. Mr. Rackler,
Yes.
Mr. Self,
Yes.
Mr. Merrick,
No.
Mr. Elkins,
Yes.
and Mr. Lopez.
Yes.
Okay. Motion carries.
Motion carries. I will speak with the mayor, after this and, you know, just suggest that we, if this is an item that, because we have not had somebody legally giving us directions when we need questions answered. So I am going to recommend that we do a special meeting, if possible, to where we can, I mean, this is a really dire position and we've had so many questions that we need legally that we're suffering for. So that's gonna be my recommendation to him.
If you make that recommendation, would you ask the league attorney, president, even at least on Zoom or something?
Yes,
But like, if we could answer those questions tonight, we probably could.
yes. And that would have been. Yes, okay. Next item is city council staff comments. We'll start with the staff. You have anything? Mr. Rackler, we'll start on your end.
Nothing for me.
Ms. Parker,
No.
Mr. Merrick,
I think that we're gonna, probably have a request from to present at our next council meeting. The findings that they come up with.
anything else?
Go ahead, Mal.
Okay, I'll come back to you. Mr. Elkins,
None.
Mr. Lopez.
No.
Mr. Self, Mr. Robinson.
Yes, I'd like to say to the chief of police that we appreciate follow through at the James School where you have patrol officers. I think it is nice and slowing down the traffic. So we can turn in. We appreciate that.
That's our new school resource officer.
That's a new school resource, but I appreciate him being there in the morning time, high traffic volume. It certainly enhance our bus drive.
I'll let him know.
Okay, and the only other thing that I would like to add is that I did ask Mayor Miller about the appointment and he did respond. And that is not an elected position. He's just appointing to the committee. None of the council objected, so appointment is correct and you're able to serve. You're good to go. And I believe, we will be in Santa Fe next Monday and then I've been up a couple of times in the last couple of weeks, so we'll continue to fight for every dollar that we can. And if you have anything, our public comment was at the beginning of the meeting, but if you want to meet with us after, we'll be available. You're welcome. And that is all I have, so meeting is adjourned.